Mvelo decides to start an emergency savings account for the future. He deposits 6,000. So T0, Mvelo deposits 6,000. Okay? And then they say 3 years later, he deposits 8,000. So after putting the 6,000, he puts what? 8,000. Okay? All in all, bunch, how much has he deposited? He has deposited 6,000 okay? Plus 8,000. Now, the money that is in the bank account is how many? It's how much? 14,000. Okay. They say then, 4 years after this, after depositing the 8,000, 4 years after depositing 8,000, he deposits 10,000 into the account. The interest rate for the first 4 years is as follows, per annum compounded semi-annually. And then they talk about for the next 3 years, it's 15% per annum compounded quarterly. Calculate the future value at the end of the 7-year period. Let's go and check what is happening here. Remember, here's what we have here. We have Mvelo who deposits 6,000 at T0. This is T0. No? T0, here it is. And then 4 years later, or 3 years later, or 4 years later, 3 years later, or 4 years later. 3 years later. No? Okay, 3 years later, we'll come and put a gate to say, which 3 years later, he puts 8,000. Let me just be sure. 3 years later, he deposits 8,000. So here, he's going to put 8,000. So this is going to be our P1. This is going to be our P2. And 4 years after T3. So we count 4. It's 1, it's 2, it's 3, it's 4. Then we put an extra what? 10,000. So these are the amounts. And then we're going to put the amount at T0, at T3, and at T7. We're going to put the money at T0, T3, and T7. What else are we going to do? We're going to check the interest. The interest is as follows. Interest number 1 is going to be represented with the green color. Interest number 1 is going to be represented with the green color. For the first 3 years, the interest is 15% per annum compounded quarterly. First 3 years or first 4 years? For the next 3 years, the interest rate is 15% per annum compounded. Okay, they start by saying the interest rate for the first 4 years, we represent the first 4 years with the green color. So if you check starting from T0 to T4, the interest rate is going to be 0.42 again. And that part. And if we look at 6,000, we're going to start with 6,000 first. 6,000 is going to say 4 multiplied by 2 because 2 is semi-annual here. And then after that, the next 3 years, the interest is going to be 0.15 compounded quarterly. How many years is still remaining? It's 1, it's 2, it's 3. So you have 3 multiplied by 4, which is going to give us 12. Here we're going to get what? 8. So how much money are we going to have for 6,000? If we only consider 6,000, let's look at 6,000. 6,000, it's before the green color. So how many interest is 6,000 going to receive? 6,000 is going to receive the interest for 0.14. It's going to receive an interest for 0.14. And it's also going to receive an interest for 0.15. All in all, if we take the 16,000 and then we grow it for the next 7 years, it's going to be 16,000. After that, we go to 8,000. Let's go and look at 8,000. Which 8,000? Where is 8,000? 8,000 is this one here. I make sure which learner so that they can see here. You can clearly see which 8,000 is part of the green. Can you see that? There's a little bit of the green. It green less each other how many times? Once. And then after that, we get the what? We get the orange color. So we're going to have 8,000. 8,000 is going to accumulate for green and orange. Now, if we say 8,000 is going to accumulate for green and orange, this is what we're going to have. We have 8,000 accumulating 0.14 for only 1 year, which is 1 multiplied by 2 because it's semi-annual. And then this one, it's going to be 0.15, 3 multiplied by 4 compounded quarter. And then we get 14,000. Now, 10,000 is not going to get any interest. Why is 10,000 going to not get any interest? 10,000 is at the end. Can you see that one? So 10,000 is not going to get any interest unless we go to T8. If we go to T8, then 10,000 will receive an interest. But since we're putting this 10,000 here, we don't know what's going to be the interest of this amount. When we put money in the bank, they're not going to give us any interest. So what is going to be the accumulated amount? It's going to be A1, which is for 6,000, A2 for 8,000, and 10,000. Then at the end of the day, I'm going to get 40,000. It's 40,282,08. A question like this one, most of the time, it can be 8 marks or 7.